There's a silent revolution happening right now, and most people aren't paying attention. It's not led by politicians, it's not splashed across newspaper headlines, and it's definitely not celebrated in any mainstream conversation. But it's real, and it's growing. More and more men, from all backgrounds and social classes, are making a conscious decision to walk away from women. Not with bitterness, not with hatred, but with clarity. For years, men were told they were the problem. They were told to try harder, to communicate more, to be more vulnerable, to provide more, to tolerate more, only to be rewarded with less respect, less loyalty, and less appreciation. And eventually, something inside a man breaks. Not with anger, but with a cold, sharp realization. He looks at the years he spent giving, and sees how little he received in return. He begins to realize that maybe the problem wasn't that he wasn't giving enough. Maybe the problem was that he was giving to a broken system. For decades, society has conditioned men to see women as the central focus of their lives. Movies, music, advertisements, everything tells you that your value as a man is tied to your ability to attract, please, and keep a woman. But in reality, this belief has created an endless cycle where men exhaust themselves, chasing an ideal that no longer exists. The modern relationship game is no longer about building a family. It's not about growing together. It's often not even about mutual respect. It has become a game of power, of validation, and of keeping options open. And when a man sees this, when he understands that he's been participating in a game with stacked cards from the very beginning, he stops playing. He chooses himself. Not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. The biggest lie they tell you is that men are walking away because they can't handle strong women or because they're afraid of commitment. That's the narrative society uses to protect itself from the inconvenient truth. The truth is much simpler. Men are walking away because they have finally calculated the cost and realized the return isn't worth the investment. They have seen friends who gave decades of their lives only to be discarded the moment they stumbled. They have seen divorces where the man loses the house, his savings, and his children, all while being painted as the villain of the story. They have seen relationships where love was replaced by a sense of entitlement, where gratitude disappeared the moment she felt secure. And so, they are doing the only thing left that makes sense. They are removing themselves from the equation completely. What's most revealing about this shift is not just the why, but the how. Men aren't leaving in loud protests or giving angry speeches. They are disappearing in silence, without grand announcements, without social media campaigns, without long farewell messages. Just silent, final exits. They stop pursuing, they stop compromising their values, and they stop reordering their lives to accommodate someone who doesn't truly value them. Instead, they begin to pour their time, money, and energy into the one person who can guarantee a return on the investment: themselves. They start building businesses, traveling, getting in shape, and mastering new skills. They begin to create a life that doesn't require romantic validation to feel complete and fulfilling. And here's the great irony, the paradox the universe seems to love. At the exact moment they stop caring about attracting women, they suddenly become more attractive than ever before. But by this point, they no longer need what is being offered. Women, for the most part, don't notice this shift until it's already well underway. They were taught for years that men will always pursue, always provide, always commit, no matter how they behave. They became accustomed to male attention as if it were a natural, infinite resource, like the air they breathe. But when that attention begins to dry up, when the endless validation they took for granted begins to disappear, a subtle panic sets in. They call men weak for walking away. But deep down, they feel the absence. They feel the vacuum left by the masculine energy that once surrounded them. The truth is, men aren't walking away to punish women. They are walking away because they have realized their lives are objectively better when they aren't constantly trying to prove their worth to someone who may never be satisfied. They are walking away because they have finally learned that peace is worth more than the company of the wrong person. And peace, for a man, is not just the absence of conflict. It is the freedom to build, to create, to focus on his mission without constantly being sidetracked by emotional drama. This pursuit of peace isn't just a reaction to personal experiences. It's a cultural awakening to patterns that were once invisible. Patterns that have turned dating and marriage into a minefield for the modern man. The first pattern is how the dating market operates today. With the rise of social media and dating apps, loyalty has become treated as optional, and commitment as a temporary arrangement until someone better comes along. Relationships have become public performances where the attention of strangers on Instagram is often valued more than genuine intimacy with a partner. And a man has realized that no matter how hard he works, or how loyal he is always one emotional whim away from being replaced. When stability isn't guaranteed, an intelligent man stops investing in high-risk stocks and starts investing in something that can't be taken from him, himself. The second pattern is the erosion of traditional gender dynamics without a clear, functional replacement. In the past, men were respected for their role as protectors and providers. This respect wasn't conditional, it was the basis of the social pact. In today's climate, those same qualities are often dismissed as the bare minimum expected, rather than being appreciated. And the more men give, the more invisible those contributions become. A woman often doesn't realize how much a man silently does to keep her life stable and secure until he's gone. The bills paid without question, the small problems solved before they became big ones, the emotional stability that kept chaos at bay. The man begins to ask himself, why am I working so hard to be invisible, or worse, resented? And when the answer comes in the form of a void, walking away becomes the logical choice. And the third, and perhaps most painful, pattern is the weaponization of intimacy. Many men have learned the hard way that the same woman who once looked at them with adoration can become cold and unrecognizable when she doesn't get what she wants. Affection becomes conditional, respect becomes a bargaining chip, and everything turns into a test. She withholds affection, pulls away, and creates conflict out of nothing. Not because the relationship is failing, but because she knows you will try to win her back. This constant emotional push and pull drains a man's spirit. And when he finally understands that he is being psychologically manipulated, he doesn't just leave her, he leaves the entire game. But perhaps beyond all the cultural and financial reasons, the most powerful catalyst for this withdrawal is the discovery of something modern men have forgotten existed, the peace of solitude. When you're constantly in a relationship, you forget what it's like to live without drama, without silent resentments, without the constant low-grade tension of trying to keep someone happy who may not want to be happy. Alone, a man can breathe, he can focus, he can hear his own thoughts. And as that peace settles in, he begins to guard it like a treasure. Suddenly, the idea of giving it up for someone who can turn his life upside down on a whim seems crazy. This is where women often misunderstand male silence. They think a man pulling away is out of spite or bitterness. But for most men, it's about survival. It's about returning to a place where their identity is not defined by how well they can entertain, provide for, or appease another person. When a man has been emotionally drained, he knows the only way to fill his own cup is to walk away completely. And here's the point. When he does this, he rarely looks back. Because once a man experiences a life without the constant threat of emotional instability, it's not that he no longer wants love. It's that he refuses to accept it at the cost of his peace. Ironically, it is often only after he is gone that women realize the full extent of his presence. At first, she may feel relieved, but as time goes on, reality hits. The small daily problems don't magically solve themselves. The emotional ground he provided has disappeared. The absence of him is louder than his presence ever was. But by the time she finally understands what she lost, he has already rebuilt his life in a way that no longer has space for her. He has found something she can no longer offer him, a life that feels complete without her. What is happening on a large scale is that men are realizing their value is not tied to romantic acceptance. For decades, men were told their value came from being chosen, but when they started to see that loyalty was conditional and affection could be withdrawn without warning, they stopped chasing approval. They started chasing mastery of their careers, their finances, their bodies, and their minds. And in doing so, they became more attractive precisely by becoming less accessible to women. This is the paradox. The more men walk away, the more magnetic they become, but they no longer care about being captured. The effect of this is already reshaping the dating landscape. The narrative has shifted from, all men are trash, to, where have all the good men gone? And the answer is brutally simple. They are not here, because they have stopped playing a game that was rigged against them from the start. They are not bitter, they are detached. And detachment is far more powerful than anger. Anger can still be manipulated. Detachment, on the other hand, is final. It is the quiet confidence of knowing you can walk away at any time and not lose sleep over it. So, when you hear people say that men are walking away from women, understand that this isn't an attack. It's an awakening. It's a generation of men deciding that their peace, their purpose, and their power are too valuable to be gambled in a market where loyalty has been replaced by convenience. And here is the final truth that most men only learn after they walk away. The greatest freedom is not moving on with another person. It is moving on with yourself. It is waking up every day in a life you have consciously designed, free from the emotional negotiations that once drained you. When you learn to fill your own cup, you will never again tolerate someone who only shows up to drink from it. Walk away not to prove a point, but to protect your life. Because in the end, the man who chooses himself doesn't just win, he changes the game entirely. Now, I want to hear from you. This male awakening is an individual process but with shared experiences. If this analysis resonated with your perception of reality, leave a like so more men feel validated, and if possible, make a donation to help us continue with this work. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any more strategies for power and self-mastery. Use the comments below for our next video. And tell me honestly, what is the greatest benefit you have found or are seeking by walking away from the modern dating game? Peace, a focus on your purpose, or self-respect? Remember, walking away is not an act of giving up. It is the first act of sovereignty. Until the next video.